broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core.
Our guests hail from the Oshkosh, Wisconsin area. They've been making waves on the music scene with their dynamic sound and introspective lyrics. Their music is a fusion of blues, folk, and rock, characterized by soulful vocals, intricate guitar riffs, and infectious hooks. The band recently released a video for a revamped song, Off the Ground 23. It's a reflection of their growth and evolution as artists and has received rave reviews for its authenticity and raw energy. Join us today as we sit down with the Traveling Suitcase to learn more about their creative process, musical influences, and upcoming projects. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
That was maybe the longest intro I think I've ever done.
That was great.
It was nice.
I was amped up. And I'm like, dang, look at all the big vivacious.
Take a breath and
Absolutely.
listen to
Let's start the show off by maybe going down the road and just kind of introducing, saying who you are and what you do in the band.
Cool. My name is Nicholas Raymond. I play every single instrument simultaneously whenever I feel like it in the Traveling Suitcase.
I'm Todd Bulky, sometimes called Texas Butter, but I play what I call easy guitar part.
He's so good.
He lies. Oh, sorry. Yeah. What's up? I'm Jake Steinmeier. I play drums sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm Nate. I also play guitar.
Harder guitar.
He was setting you up for the Beatles thing. Yeah.
We're missing
Nate's
a
not
member
like that
today as well.
Yeah, we're Brandon Domer. Brandon Domer is our bass player, our piano player, our mix engineer, professionaire, our professional man.
He's the glue.
Brandon.
The glue.
Yeah.
He had to
Couldn't do
work
it
at
without him.
Hyde Music in Oshkosh this morning, so he is serving the people.
He's here in spirit.
Absolutely.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Brandon.
Do you think
Good to
he's
have you here, Brandon.
Do you think he's tuned in today? Maybe he'll call in with a question.
He's here in
Ooh,
spirit.
That would be the best.
That would be the
It
best.
would be the best.
So
Now my hopes are up.
the band's had some personnel changes since its incarnation, and the band technically started, was it around 2010?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's kind of in the Peabody's side yard was kind of where the thing happened there.
And
Brandon and I were jamming out with one of his friends, Brandon Weisensall, and then like a drummer, he was like, I don't know if I want to do it or not, and then I was very sad because Nate and Brandon Weisensall and Brandon also played in a band together, so you know how good Brandon Weisensall is at drums, and when a good drummer doesn't want to play the drums, you're like, why don't you want to do that? And that's how I was, and then we met Rob Murphy and a few other people, and then we jammed out, and there was some really good chemistry right away. So we just jammed out, went to Peabody's, and I said, you guys want to do this? And that was 2010. And yeah, the revolving door of creations has been going on for 13 years.
And then even before that band, you were involved in the scene, the music scene.
Yeah, I played in a Christian metal band growing up, which is amazing. So
A Christian
yeah,
metal band.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was called Infinity Theory, and we did pretty good. We did really well. We did some stuff at like Life Fest, opening up for Blindside, and like
What were you doing in the band?
playing drums.
Drums.
Yeah, and like I wanted to sing, but they're like, no, and like I was like, someday I'll sing. I'll show you. And that's kind of like the Suitcase was like a big motivator of like, I want to do this, you know. I can sing.
Well, and so the Suitcase started and did it seems like word of mouth spread pretty quickly, because I remember hearing of the Suitcase.
I don't know what happens with the stuff with the Suitcase. Sometimes it's really weird. But I will say there's some sort of, I don't know what it is. A spirit, I will call it, because it definitely is something that I denied. for myself a few times of the spirit of the suitcase. But it's always existed. And I think with the carnation of what we're doing right now and the members that we have right now are a calling, I guess a manifestation of the last 13 years of that revolving musical and spiritual door. So it's a very weird way of putting it, but I feel very aligned.
It's all come full circle.
Yeah.
It's very well said. Nate's like an original member of the very first incarnation, and Todd and I have been fans of the suitcase. We describe it. He described it as energy, but it's like a gravity. The suitcase kind of pulls and has these people in these wide orbits around it that. It's just got that energy to it. You said it in the introduction. It's just infectious. And it's funny how Todd and I have come into the picture now. And just with this appreciation, this really deep appreciation for Suitcase, and just it's a great opportunity, at least for me personally, to just be a part of it.
Being a fan of the band prior, did it make it easier to learn the drum parts? And in Europe, it's almost like you're kind of also have the pressure on you. It's almost like drumming for the Foo Fighters after
kind of.
Dave
I mean,
Grohl.
it's like, dude, it's like everyday school with this guy.
Can I interrupt and just talk about how Jake approached us?
Go for it.
So we played Charlieville, which we hadn't done in a chunk of time because I moved away to Colorado and was gone, and then COVID happened to everyone, and so we played Charlieville this year, and it was amazing. It was really fun, and I had at the time because I play in Redshift Headlights, and Jay, who plays in Redshift Headlights, was drumming with the Suitcase, and it was feeling good. But Jay is also one of those drummers that's in like 500 projects, and he's a really busy guy already. And we get done with Charlieville, and I like wake up the next day, and I've got like audition videos, and this like very peculiar like long novel about how like this kid wants our relationship to be like Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins, and I'm like, is he love bombing me? What's happening? Is this real?
Right?
And then Sierra and I watched some of the my wife and I watched the audition videos, and I was like, is this real? And then I sent it to everybody, and then we had a band meeting, and I was convinced that like I had found the Ninja Turtles, and that I am that my wife is April, and I am the rat, and that I found the Ninja Turtles.
Well, when you put it that way,
Master Splinter.
I mean,
Right? That's kind of closer to the mark.
dude, rats are okay. Rats are awesome.
I love rats. Don't get me wrong.
So like, I love animals. So when I say the rats are really smart. They're very intelligent. They're very, dude.
They're good at karate.
Yes.
Natural
know
music.
that.
Well,
karate.
straight up. So Jake ends up being a very great drummer, and he ends up being a ninja as well. So that's what's
Funny.
the funniest
Complete
thing
the
about
picture.
it.
Too funny.
Yeah.
But that was crazy. Yeah, talking about the love bombing of him. He moves back to the area, and I'm sort of unplugged myself. I live a pretty analog lifestyle, so I don't always know when these currents arrive. And it turns out Nick is back in the picture, and my girlfriend Shay Correa is a super talented photographer, and she was actually the original fan of the Suitcase. When Suitcase was going through its first incarnation, I was also working, so I was in the scene. I was in a bunch of other bands. I'm kind of a hired gun most of the time, always looking for like a permanent home, And the last tour I was on, I jammed the Traveling Suitcase almost exclusively, just trying to channel this like prog, Americana, folk, this really unique vibe. That's the whole thing. It was just it gave such an interesting voice to what was really difficult drumming for me at the time. You know what I mean? As a metal drummer, toning it down is always takes a lot of discipline. But with Nick, he's just got such an infectious energy, and because him being a drummer, that informs his leadership. And it makes it just really cool to be a drummer for the guy. So you talk about pressure. I don't really feel it as pressure. It's just like, what are we going to do today, Nick? He's like, this is what I think. Whoa, cool, Stit.
How's Nick as far as, like, if you played something a little different, did Nick say, well, that sounds cool?
I don't know if he gets much of a choice. Like, you can try to make it different, but it's just whatever comes out, and sometimes it's really cool. Sometimes it's less cool, and we slow her down, But no, we got really good communication.
It doesn't mean it's any less cool. It just means it's a little slower,
But no, that's kind of all part of it. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I just sort of ride the wave of that energy, and it informs the communication and the band dynamic and the chemistry of all the whole deal. It's really cool.
So Nate, you were in the band when it started, and
well,
or near the beginning, and then
no, I was never like officially in the band before this incarnation. I was with Brandon Domer in another band called Kilroy, and then
Check it out, everyone. Kilroy.
So I've known Nick forever, you know. But yeah, I would help them out with like making videos and stuff like that, and I recorded with them here and there and stuff. But it wasn't until sometime last year, I guess, like late last year, that Domer mentioned that, you know, Nick was back in town and trying to get things going, and I was like, well, I'm available, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
So when the Traveling Suitcase started, were you on drums right from the start?
No, it was, it's funny because when I started this band, because I've been a drummer my whole life, it was one of those things where I was like, I really just want to focus. I'd never focused on singing. And yet again, here I am 13 years later going, okay, I really need to focus on singing because it's all I've wanted to do. Yet I'm a really big people pleaser. So that's like my biggest journey in the last 13 years of my own personal journey is like, how do you stop pleasing people and become a band leader so you can do what you want to do? Aces in their places, if you will, right? So you can have a really good project and everyone's doing exactly what they should be doing. But I was overcompensating for so many different things. So that's why I became a drummer, because it was like, oh, well, you're really good at doing this. Rob had moved to Nashville, had moved to Madison, there was just a lot of back and forth, and I could tell that it was not making him happy. And then he split, and I was like, here, we have a bunch of stuff going on. I'll drum and sing. And then it just really caught fire. For some reason, like we kept with wildfire, right? And then I think at a certain level, we're still local. I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I come home and I've got all sorts of people saying such amazing, humble things to me, being like, "Oh, I do this because of you," or "I got into this because of you," and I'm just like, why? I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's incredible. It moves me, and it makes me believe in myself because I never have. So this is what's different about the band. Taking it from 2010 to 2023, Nicholas, as a human being, believes in himself and wants to sing, and that's the only difference, right? Like I finally believe in this, and I finally, and with that manifestation though that I find the right people that are meant to be in that, because I stop people pleasing and I start to believe in myself and start to, come back. But I think at the time, I really wanted to please people, and the things that like Corey Chisel, or the things that Kurt Kempman, or people of Milo Music, or the fans, or people that I really looked up to that were like, you should do this. And, as great as it is to listen to other people, the best thing that you can do, the best thing that any of these people can do, the best thing you can do, anyone that wants to create, is literally create your own stream. Create your own fucking highway, because you're the only person that drives that car. And you're the only person that is going to take you to where that belief comes from, And that's that.
That's great. That's hard to even follow up. It's like,
right? We should follow it up with that song that kind of covers the same topic.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this about your singing. When you were drumming and singing, I don't know how you can do that, especially playing at the intense level that you would drum at.
Yeah.
Was that something that took a lot of practice?
It is. It's a lot. I actually had a friend. When we opened up for Ted Nugent back in the day, which was ridiculous. We didn't want to do it. The only reason we did it is because we made it a satire, and we got paid a lot of money from Waterfest to do it, because obviously I'm part of the queer community, and that is a giant person you do not lay in a bed with, but it's okay. Anyways, that show, I was hooked up to I had a friend who was going to school for just like how bodies work and internal medicine that way, and he had hooked me up to a machine that registered how much energy I was using. So when I would play a show, let's say like we opened up for Ted Nugent at Waterfest, I was amped, I was mad, I was, you know what I mean, there was a lot of things that went into the emotions part of that. I used so much energy that it is equivalent on a measured scale to an Olympic rower. So that takes an extreme amount of energy mentally, an extreme amount of energy physically, and I think that I would end up really resentful at shows I would end up really resentful in the middle of a tour because I was utilizing all this energy and had no idea like that I was actually becoming very unhappy because that amount of energy and then doing the rest of it stuff is like you're depleting your oxytocin, your dopamine, and then you're going on tour. Where are you going to find the rest? Where are you going to find the recovery in something like that? Because you don't. It's crazy.
Did you get to meet Ted Nugent?
No, he stayed they rented an American flag limo, and then he stayed in the limo up until the show started. But I guess I had heard rumors that limo only was like, it drove around Oshkosh and then it went to the 9th Street McDonald's and just hung out, you know? And I was like, wow, can't imagine Mr. Nuge having some like 10-piece chicken thingies and just being all gross. But
I believe he likes to be called Sweaty Uncle Teddy.
yeah, Mr. Sweaty Uncle Teddy having a good time at Mickey D's. But yeah, that was a weird show, but it was really good. And our Waterfest times are always really, really interesting. I hope we get to do another Waterfest someday because, yeah, they're fun. Their Waterfest lineup this year is actually kind of righteous. There's like Band of Horses and a bunch of other. I don't know, dude. The Fox Valley's got a really cool scene, and I think that moving away to Colorado again, you know, the millionth time, I'll always run back there. It's like a battery for me. I love it.
Yeah, let's talk about that quick, because you were in Colorado before, and then a few years ago you moved back there, and now you're back to the valley.
Yeah. I love it. I think Colorado is kind of the place where like I go shut up, and you know, like I just everyone laughs. They're like, Nick shuts up. Yeah. I talk a lot. I really do. I love it. I'm very vivacious. I've got a lot of stuff going on. But I think Colorado is the place where it's like I gain that perspective. I love hiking. The energy there is just, it's different. I'm sure there's people that hate on Colorado, but like you can't go, especially a person from the Midwest. Like I grew up flat. Water's great. I really missed water. And there's a million different things, right? You can take a ladder any way, and we'd all take a ladder up, right? But it goes a million different ways in life. So there's a million different drawbacks to coming home, but there's a million different positives to that as well, because Colorado doesn't have the same kind of music scene. It doesn't have the same kind of solidarity. It has extreme poverty lines that don't exist here because it is, you know, like you get past Nebraska west and like cut that line, there's a whole different part of America that exists that no one understands here because we will never understand poverty, drug use, gun violence in ways like that. So that's a big reason why I came home as well. I experienced a decent amount of gun violence at the place that I was working, and you know what I mean, like just different things where like your timbre of what is happening on volume of people just becomes really different. And that was something that I woke up to, where it's just like, all right, well, you know, it's a lot safer to live in a place of 70,000 people and come together in the middle of winter because we've all been really depressed for 9 months than it is to be like, I'm among 4 million people. There is so much gang violence and poverty, and like, I don't know, man, it got really heavy, but the perspective is, you know, something that I'm always chasing. So when I get bored here, you'll know where to find me.
When you came back here, was the scene any different from when you left, or was just pretty much picked up where you left off?
I think that the scene is growing, but I think that there's an awareness that we need to check ourselves with, because when I came back to the Valley, I have learned that everyone is really audaciously chasing going nowhere very fast. Everyone's pretty wrapped up in this exterior chase, but that happens with humans in general. But this is a really small place. It's literally, like I said, 70,000 people in a conglomerate of, it's small shit, right? So, like, the way that we can band together, because this is so small, coming back from a big place, is that we all just, like, literally need to have our backs, and we need to stand up for what's right, and we need to stand up for, like, each other, because the scene is really small. So the more that we let, like, you know, rapey people walk around, the more that we don't acknowledge the people that are Me Too movements in this scene, the more that we don't acknowledge the racism, the more that we don't acknowledge the elitism, the sexism, the transphobia, the homophobia, the less likely we are to be a scene that keeps coming together. So coming home, I notice, wow, there's always going to be a passive-aggressive nature to the Midwest because that's how we roll, right? This scene and the Valley in general is really into traditions. Wisconsin tradition, we've got these traditions and these things, and something in that tradition is a silence. And that's something, like, for me as a human being, and with the Suitcase, is a voice that I would like to have as a queer individual that has lived in this scene where everyone thinks, like, oh my god, it's getting so much better. And I'm like, no, I've experienced terrible things. I was working at a restaurant in Neenah and was outed inappropriately, and I don't have, you know what I mean? Like, and that was a couple months ago. These people that I've had relationships with for many, many years, I come home to, and they think that they're allies, and they're not. They're full of shit. I call all of you out. You know exactly who you are. And that's the kind of stuff that I just don't want to stand for anymore. So, like, I think the music scene is hella tight, and I think us as musicians need to stand up to that kind of stuff more and show the scene that, like, no, we actually come together way more than we think, because when we're unified, our vibration is so much louder. And that's what we do as human beings. Like, when we start to vibrate together, we can physically move things. And I would like to see this scene be the catalyst that it actually is. I want to see the people that are inside of it actually start to work for it instead of expect it to work for them. So
I want to ask you one more thing about your singing.
Okay.
If I could. So
how do you sing?
Well, it's like this. So
air.
It's really something you do really well, besides everything, is the singing melodies, writing vocal melodies that are catchy and hooky. And I think that's a talent that a lot of people don't have. Like, how did you get so good at writing vocal hooks?
Oh, I don't. That stuff is a vein that anyone can tap into. I believe that's an ether. That's a spiritual experience. So there's no give or take. There's no muse. There's no way to capture it. There's just a literal, like it's like a vein that I can just plug right into, and it's something that I think I was just kind of like called to at a young age, like it was just there.
Are you writing like the vocals before you've got instruments?
Sometimes.
Because a lot of your vocal lines could stand on their own.
Yeah, I guess sometimes. I've got one song in particular that I've been like humming and singing, that's called Strange Friends, that I've been like trying to write or figure out how to write for like 10 years. And that line, I'll be sitting with a verse or two for a little bit, but then sometimes there's no right or, I always tell this, there's no right or wrong way to be a human being, and there's definitely no right or wrong way to write a song. You can have a million different theories, but like I said, there is something different when it comes from a vein. I believe that we are all frequencies, that we are all vibrations, and that that society nulls us. So I think my biggest thing is just trying to make sure that that's where that's coming from, is that vein. So I find that that song, Strange Friends, that I sit in, and I like want to keep writing this song, but every time I go into that vein, a bunch of songs keep coming out of that vein. So it's very interesting. So I think when I finish that song, it'll be interesting because that vein will be closed. It sounds very dark, but you don't keep shooting in the same vein. It's like a tree, right? It all kind of connects together. And you can also become very influenced by other people, the more musicians that you hang out with and share veins, and you know what I mean? And that's where it's weird, because it can get dirty sharing needles. And it can get it's a weird metaphor, but I've always felt like singing. And that's why I want to spend more time singing for me, in my vein, in my body. Not for other people, not what other people want to hear from me or what they think I should sound like. Who is Nicholas? And where is I have a vibration in me that I don't even know yet, and I'm just really trying to get closer to it, because I think when I find it, that is my alignment to the breath, Allah, God. I'm a pretty big atheist, but I also believe in our own spiritual awakening, because when we are attuned to that, we are our own demigod, and then we can do anything we want. It's kind of crazy. So you're like, wow, how do you sing? And I'm just like, no, man, it's totally trippy and ethereal.
How does one plug into the Akashic ether?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Give me the steps.
Yeah.
Nate, were you involved with the first album, All My Friends? Did you do anything? No, you didn't do anything with that album. So we'll go back to Nick listening again for a little bit.
Nate did a bunch of so Nate is an amazing videographer. And I'm very excited because like we're gonna spend a lot of time making videos and doing a bunch of stuff and growing as friends and just like having a summer that none of us probably got because we all come from very interesting situations. I don't think you can look at any human being and be like, we don't have childhood trauma. Something along the lines, is very interesting. But right now we're set to have this like summer that I think all of us really have like Todd's summer that he has set out where he's got a bunch of stuff that he wanted to do this summer and we're going to do it. So Todd doesn't go at the end of the summer, dang, what was all that stuff I wanted to do?
Every summer I'm like,
you're not going to have that.
What was I going to do?
That's
I was
not
gonna
your
do
summer.
something.
It's not Todd's summer this year, but with
You got
Nate,
all of 3 months.
with Nate, he was really in a creative way always there, and Nate spent so much time with me and Brandon where Brandon and I would just like all of a sudden write a song together and throw it into the Suitcase mix, but Nate was literally there mixing with us until like 4 a.m. So he just wants to discredit himself.
Well, I wasn't involved musically. Like, I was there. Yeah.
Well, you talked
But
about the impression, like, your influence on it. He was just saying how impressionable we all are as musicians. We influence each other.
Yeah.
With our
I was like, you were
interests and
there,
things,
you were
and
in it,
Your
Nate.
presence,
You're
the gravity
literally
of
in
your
it.
presence
Yeah, man, you were
is
there.
in the bedrock of Suitcase, and it's fun for me as a fan to hear it come out on songs like Off the Ground and things, these little things that you just kind of like touch,
it's like it's pent up all these years of
Well,
not
'cause you've
playing
been-
together.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was
It's
like,
got
you
like-
literally-
Why didn't we do this decades ago?
Yeah, that's what it
so
is, because
cool.
Nate shot the fucking video for Off the Ground. I mean,
Yeah.
everything. Nate was on the other side of the entire thing, watching it
It's
happen.
on the other
just
side of the
because-
camera.
But that's the thing, like, we can't come through, the more that we try to do, the more you come out of an egotistical place and the more you try to control it, you have to just be there for your friends and support them in their own creativity and let them figure it out, because that is the fucking hokey pokey.
That's how you plug
Right.
in. You
Yeah.
said, how do you plug in? Don't try to control it.
Yeah,
Don't stand on
absolutely.
each other's
So
necks
Nate-
and just watch each other grow.
Nate is organically, growing into this in such a super cool way. That's where I'm at. I don't want to interrupt anymore about talking about Nate, but I'm just going to be like, God damn it, man,
That's
you were
great.
there the
That's
whole
a good
time, and
segue.
you're so interwoven. Like, this is a giant quilt, and you're like a giant piece of the stitching. And it was like, yeah,
I mean,
it is
Nate
one of those
just
things.
answered the question. He just answered Andy's question, basically.
So I heard an interview on WEC, an older interview. We were talking about recording on some of the first album up in Minocqua. There's like a lightning strike.
Nah.
And so I didn't know if Nate was there for that. And
I was not there for that.
No.
No, I've heard
No,
the story.
let's hear the lightning story.
We thought it would be a really awesome idea to record a live storm in a garage that was made out of metal.
that was
Yeah.
on All My Friends.
All My Friends, yeah. There was a storm on the song All My Friends that was like that. So I still have really bad PTSD. For a really long time it was a lot of storms where I would like hide in a closet and drag my animals with me. Lots of decent amount of that. Now if people stand out in a storm to watch it too long like most Midwesterners do, because that's what you guys fucking do, I'm just like, go back inside, stop. I'm not
Tornado
as
sirens
paranoid.
went off
It's a
like
dark
twice
cloud right there.
yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
Did
And
you hear that
Yeah, I heard
yesterday?
that. Of course I heard it.
Both
I know.
times, I just like looked around outside. I'm like, oh, I don't see
Yeah,
nothing.
everyone walks
Seems
outside.
fine.
They're like, so what is it? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, stay inside. But it's interesting because that specific storm, there was 3 other people that were struck by lightning, and I ended up meeting one of them at Gardenia's Gardenia's in Oshkosh after doing a solo show 5 years after that happened, and we talked about the rarity of that. And it was interesting. Even when I went to my doctor, they're like, wow, I've never met anybody. And I was like, I would like to talk about what's going on with my body.
For
In
science.
fact, yeah, I was like, can we talk about science real quick instead of you being like fanboying it out about like a lightning,
He's all poking
And-
you. How are you alive?
Yeah, absolutely.
Has that Twitch always been there? That
Yeah. But it was an arc of lightning, so it wasn't like a full-on strike. It arced onto the mic and into me and onto that. And luckily, we still had the tracks. It fried out the mixing board, so you could only pan things to stereo. So he had to take everything stereo off the board for the whole entire album, and then it finally fried out. maybe like a year later, and we were like, what the fuck? You know, like it was just one of those things where, you know, but I went into it wanting Thor, questioning Thor, going, come on, bitch. And then it was like, that's what you get.
All right, hubris.
I mean,
right through your vocal piece, human.
Yes, there you go. You know, and that's where you've got to be careful what you wish for, especially when you're manifesting, because I'm one of those people that's definitely like, I always tell Jake, because Jake and I are really heady together. We're definitely on the same, like, vein. We are definitely in the same kind of tethered vein. But I don't even remember what I was going to say.
You are Thor, and then you question Thor, and you are it. What the hell would you do?
Yeah,
you know? So you struck yourself with lightning.
I was telling him, like, I'm in a deep ocean. Like, my personality is definitely like an ocean, but when you get into the ocean, then you realize it's actually like the universe, and you're like, oh, shit. Oh, this is... Oh, God. Yeah,
So that, I mean, how much of the album did you actually record up at that place in Minocqua? Was it just the one song?
No, it would have been the whole... We tracked the whole album there, and then I think we did some vocals outside of it. But yeah, I mean, we tracked the whole thing there. And that happened one of the last days we were there. And then we thought, wow, what are our chances? And then we went to... Because we were in Minocqua, so we went to Lac de Flambeau, and we won $600. And then we paid for the stay.
That's awesome.
So it was kind of this weird circumstance.
When you put that out on vinyl, which was, I mean, for a first album to put out on vinyl was...
Let's talk about that. That was someone else's opinion. That was someone else's opinion brought us to that. Brought us to 1,000 vinyl, which brings us to 1,000 vinyl, which brings us to 800 vinyl. You know, where it's one of those things where you don't need to press that much vinyl.
Well, you also did like a lot of personalization on the covers.
Yeah, the reason we ended up doing that, so you know how we came in and Jake was talking about how I like to throw everything for a loop. Problem solving 101. We're about to do 1,000 vinyl, and Nicki Minaj decides I'm gonna release a record too. And Nicki Minaj is the shit and has way more followers than the Traveling Suitcase. So United Records called us and they're like, hey, yo, we're going to put this 1,000 on back order. You'll get your records next month. And I was like, but my measly little album release is on... No. And then they're like, Nicki Minaj. And I'm like, true. Bet. And so then I was like, I don't know what we want to do. So then I got a hold of a bunch of local artists and I said, let's do an art show. And let's do a listening booth to where people can listen to it, because we at least had the test pressing. So I said, let's do a listening booth. We'll do that. And then we basically did like a big auction, and everybody got to auction off their own things. And so there's like a bunch of really cool Suitcase records that are kind of floating around that are really unique and really cool. I want to bring that back. I like miss that. I just miss that. I miss the originality and I don't know, doing it for fun, right? And doing it because like it involves everyone else. And that was something that was so magical. And I think that people really want to catch on to an idea when they think it's good, especially with the band, and they attach onto it, you know? It's like Nine Inch Nails wrote a song called Starfucker, and it reminds me of that thing. People really want to get close to light, and they want to be in it. And I think that moving forward with the Suitcase, I would like to have really big boundaries, and I want us to only be friends, and I want us to keep that creative thing alive. And I would love us to get more artists involved with things that we're doing and have the community just be as big of a piece as I am in this band. Sorry, you just like opened up how special that whole event was, because it was just this problem solving thing, but then it ended up getting everybody involved, and that wasn't a problem anymore. And then it made me go, wow, how much cooler of a community that we have, where everybody's just willing to post up an album cover because they're so fucking moved by what we're doing, because they've just been coming to shows for the last year, and we don't even know we had no idea what we were doing, man. We were just trying to have fun, and that's exactly like what I want to do again, because I feel like we got in this vein where like we felt like we knew what we were doing. And you know, our other guitar player that we had in the past really, you know, he really wants his picture of music is completely different than mine, and I'm very well aware of that, and I support that 100%. So I think that's kind of the biggest moving picture, is like finding people that align with that. And that's something I had a really big conversation with Timmy McCleary coming home about, is because that guy is an insane vessel. I don't even know how I took us so far away, but I did.
That's okay.
Well, it's all connected.
So you felt a lot of pressure then when this album came out?
Yeah, I felt a lot of pressure even with All My Friends as well. Or excuse me, with Nobody Wins, I felt an extreme amount of pressure because we had the Kickstarter. And at that time in my life, I was really fronting who I was as a human being, that's it's really weird. It's like a trigger record for me,
We'll get it away from you.
No, you're like, get it away.
Well, but you guys did a lot of like shows around that time. You did like the Rock Garden Live, and that was recorded at Rock Garden.
I feel like, the Rock Garden Live was like a cool idea that I had presented with Mark. I was like, hey, I'm gonna end the band, and I've always really loved Incubus, and I want to do this like session that emulates the Morning View sessions, and where we sit in the middle and everyone surrounds us, because I love those Morning View sessions. I don't know if you're an Incubus fan, but like, dude, those things are awesome. They have
That's the real reason I'm in the band, because I can play like every Incubus song.
Yeah, it's really Nate and I only connect on Incubus songs. Like literally, we're just Traveling Suitcase is probably just going to become an Incubus tribute band. Yeah, if you see like something like that says like Succubus or something, it's definitely the Traveling Suitcubus or something. It's definitely Traveling Suitcase doing Incubus.
Just doing an Incubus tribute
show.
set.
Just a fucking tribute
it's
show.
Called Succubus.
Yes.
All right.
But like, that was the concept behind that, and I'm glad we did it, and I'm super glad. I love working with Mark. I've worked with Mark since I was 13. My Christian metal band was like, Mark recorded that, and I've been making music with Mark. And we helped him. I remember meeting Chris Sabini when I was a little high school kid, and we helped move. My first time meeting Chris Sabini was like me and him sweating and moving Mark's console into a U-Haul.
It's a magical console.
Yeah, and or not that one. It was a different one he had from I think it was like an old dentist office or whatever it was on. What's that street? Where the draw is? What street is that?
It's the street that's down by the draw.
What's that street? Down by the draw. Well, he's up, and then up from the draw is where Mark's studio used to be. But yeah, we've been tethering that vein for a really long time, and like we had a really good time making this record, because I think me and Mark had such a beautiful time, and I can't wait I would love to make more music with Mark, and I know we'll go do some live sessions and stuff in there. Here's the fun thing about all of this stuff is like I've grown up with Brandon Domer, so all we've done is demo, so we demo and we get this sound. And what I've realized is as much as I love working with all these engineers, my favorite sound is when we record ourselves, and it has nothing to do with any engineer that we've ever worked with. It's just something, it just sounds different. It sounds like us.
Absolutely.
It sounds like us. And I think that I was never getting the sound I wanted out of that. And I loved what we did with it. And I think that we collaborated really well on it. Also, this album was a literal thing that I wrote out of all of my hurt and pain and self-hatred before I needed to become who I really was. I literally wrote an album called Nobody Wins. What kind of thing is that? What am I telling myself? Well, you're not going to win with this. You're not, because no one does, so a lot of these songs are like literal manifestations of demonness, like
but
things
it's so
I was going.
Weird, man, because that made it chrysalis for like how we met, because I met you guys because of Mark and because of Rock Garden. You know, and you created this album in such a dark place. It was a no-no to sort of talk about. My girlfriend, Shay Correa, works with Mark Goldie. And that was sort of how I got involved with the Suitcase, because she was like, check this out. I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind. And it was Nobody Wins. And it was the live clippings that really did it. And me, having no idea that this was like such a source of pain and stuff for you. And it was a no-go zone for most people. Like, you weren't supposed to talk to Nick about Nobody Wins. And I'm just like, what's up, dude? I'm Jake. This is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. And we need to hang out, And that was totally how I reached out to him. And, here we are, and I really owe it all to like Mark Goldie and Brandon, because Brandon hooked me up with the vinyl. It's so cool.
Yeah, but then when you reached out and said that, I had sat down and I hadn't listened. I'd moved away. I was living in Denver when you reached out, and I hadn't listened to it in a really long time. And it was really good because listening back to it, I go, okay, these songs are really good. They're better than I thought they were. And then it was like, then I went and saw the Chili Peppers, and it was the first show with John Frusciante back in Denver. It was hailing. I thought they were going to call it. And of course they didn't. Flea came out, did a fucking handstand. I saw his balls. And I was like, all right, Flea. They are not canceling the show. I just saw Flea's balls, bro.
That was the show.
Yeah, those are. I was like, dang, I'm getting merch at dsnuts.com tonight. Damn. But it was weird because I caught this bug. He had sent this beautiful message about, and I re-listened, and I was like, no, there's something there, And then it was like, it kind of like, I forgave myself for being so fucking mean to myself about, because we put so much pressure on ourselves to change, right? And we do. And I have been in this chrysalis, dude. I've been in a chrysalis for 7 years, homie.
Yeah.
I've been in this state of healing, and I still am, right? But that's why with this incarnation and this thing, I want everyone to win. I want the narrative to be different.
Cool.
And
everybody wins.
Well, and that's what it is. I want everyone to win. Everyone should win. I don't want nobody to win anymore because that's so fucked up.
Yeah.
What is that? What am I manifesting? It's awful. That's terrible, right? Because I think songs are manifestations. We are literally getting out there. And if everything goes to my manifestation, I would love to do this all the time with these guys.
Yeah.
Because who wouldn't? Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't get their rock band together and they're like, I want to do this? We'd be lying. I would be lying to you, Andy, if I said, hey man, I don't want my dream to come true.
I've got to ask you about the bathrooms at Rock Garden because you're responsible for the painting in there, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, I think of you whenever I'm in there. How did you get involved with painting the bathrooms?
I have said that also myself.
I just missed mountains. I think I miss mountains so much that I start to unravel because I don't even know I don't know why I'm so connected to the Rocky Mountains, but I know that I'll chase them all the way to Banff, I want to thread them all the way up to Canada. There's something about mountains but the Rockies, man, they're like a piece of me. I was like, I don't know where I came from, I don't know who I am, but I'm some sort of funky space rock alien, and the fucking rocks, man, they just ground me, they center me, I'm so into them. So I think I just was like, Mark, your bathroom's ugly AF. And this studio has a lot of vibes, and when people are creative, we've got a lot of ideas on the shitter.
Dude, that's where most of them occur. Don't let anybody fool you.
Yes, so
take your time.
You are that is a spiritual moment in a bathroom. So I said, hey man, can I paint your bathroom? And he said, absolutely. And then I had some solo stuff on there, and then when I went in to re-record with one of my bands called Between the Low, with Andrew Frazier, he was also in my Christian metal band. So I said, hey, can I do different lyrics so I can full circle that we've recorded with you? And this is, Andrew and I were always really shy in that band. So Between the Low is our people we didn't get to be inside of that band. So when we get to visit that, it was just a really beautiful full circle moment. So I guess for me, I want people to find the tranquility that I find when I'm sitting on top of a mountain taking a shit in Rock Garden.
Yeah. It's full circle.
So we've got the current lineup. People might be asking what happened to Bill.
Well, Bill is very busy I think he's in Dusk, right? Bill's playing in Dusk, I believe. Yeah, Bill's in Dusk. He's really lined up there. I think Bill and I are two completely different people. I think I want to chase a very organic vein, and I'm not exactly sure what he wants ever. Actually, it's never really been made that crystal clear, and I think we're just two ships in the night moving two different directions. I think it took me a really long time to see that. I take full responsibility for probably, needing to shift things around sooner than I did. But at the same time, when you've been working with people for a really long time, you do your best as a leader to really make everybody happy. And that's when you go, is this the best thing? Is this making me happy? Is this going to take us to the next place that we need to go? And his schedule is very busy. The uncertainty of not knowing what Bill wants or even how Bill feels about the Traveling Suitcase was driving me mad. So it was time to let go.
Was going out to Colorado and coming back like the perfect time when you returned to kind of reset?
Well, we had a jam out. We jammed out, and it was really good, and it felt really awesome. And, you know, it was kind of like, okay, the best way I can break this down is that being in a band is much like dating people. So you're in a relationship for a really long time. So I feel like I came home, slept with Bill, woke up, and was like, oh, well, the chemistry's still there, but I don't necessarily know if, like, we are good for each other. And I think that that's kind of what it is, you know, where it's like, no, if we want to have, like, really good professional lifestyles, like, though we have great sex together, that doesn't mean we need to have a full-on marriage. So I think that's kind of the best equation that I can say with
you guys
Mr.
are
Bill Gracely.
still on good terms, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
I wish Bill nothing but the best and nothing but like really good success, because that guy works really, really hard. And, you know, I think he's doing a bunch of sound stuff with a bunch of different bands and really networking. So he's working his ass off, and we wish him nothing but the best. And, you know, Bill wrote a lot of really good songs, including one of them being Frog, which we're going to bring back. And, you know, that's one of those things where, you know, like, it's that band dynamic. It's that we can't run away from songs or relationships that we've had with people in the past, and you could do your best to honor that and grow from those spaces. And that's where when I release you, I'm in love.
So why is Promises the only song on Spotify?
Well, that's a great question. So we did Promises with...
ended up being on your last call.
Yep,
EP.
and that was kind of random too. We didn't really expect to release that. Bill had all these songs, we kind of wrote them, and then he just moved to Nashville. And then that was kind of like, oh, I didn't know what we were doing. Promises is up because we recorded at a studio, and they were like, yo, we're gonna put this up, and it's a special little hidden studio in Neenah. And
Is that Honeytone?
Yeah, Honeytone, and it was like a secret at the time, you know, like no one was allowed to talk about Honeytone really too much. But then they did a single for us, and they put that on there, and that's kind of why it's the only thing. We never, so like when we did Nobody Wins, and when we did all that big release, that was 2013. So think about technology in 2013. I mean, we didn't have Spotify. Half that stuff didn't exist. People were still using Reverb Nation, bro.
I remember those
You know,
days.
like I get back.
Just SoundCloud.
We have a new, email, and I go into our old email, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so dated. You know, and that's kind of what it is. You know, we took everything down to. I was getting harassed. And we had to take a lot of stuff down, and I do get a lot of questions of like, why did you guys take that down? So if anybody wants to know, I get harassed all the time. So if you want to educate yourselves on letting people authentically be themselves so they can have room to grow.
Absolutely.
So then this incarnation gets together. You released a kind of a updated version of one of the old songs. Is that the first thing you guys jammed on as a new band?
Off the Ground was one of the firsts, and then we've kind of been diving into a lot of oldies. I would say most of the stuff that's going to be on this record. So we're going to release a record September 23rd.
You're doing a Appleton Beer Factory announced with Seesaw.
Yeah, with Seesaw. Really great two-piece from Madison. They're really awesome. They've been making waves around the same time that we've been. We've played a few different shows with them. So, I'm super stoked about it. We're re-recording pretty much a lot of. I think weighing in more on All My Friends stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like there's more All My Friends stuff on that, and then a couple Nobody Wins tracks, and then we're gonna do. I think the second record will have like more originals, but then we'll still leak in some older. I mean, we have such a giant list, and there's all of us love the older songs just as much. Like I think it's been so much time where I can, and I was completely a different person that I can go, yeah, I actually like that. Where
really
it is,
good.
yeah, and that's it. I want you guys to talk more. I feel like I've literally just.
We've got a question that maybe you guys can all talk about. It's from Bob Minter. Regarding playing live, there's a soft movement towards earlier shows. Do you prefer playing early evening or the conventional late night shows? It's a great question.
It's a great question. I like to be home by 9, man.
The less waiting I have to do before we play, the better. So whatever if that means earlier, great. And yeah, it's nice to not be out all night.
Plus, like, Nick uses a lot of imagery of like growth and community and like a garden, and I like to use the imagery of a rising tide raises all ships, and that means like audiences need to come to shows. People need to come out to shows and enjoy this experience that we get to have together that transcends language and transcends all of these boundaries. It's a boundary disillusion. We're all part of the same organism for a second when we're going to a show and really in it. Metal communities are great for that. You ever been in a circle pit? Oh man, you're one ant among many, and it's amazing, and not like the violent stuff. I mean, old '80s circle pits.
Yeah, man.
That's how the communities I worked in were like, and everyone's a family in that moment, and it's without a word said.
Yeah.
And I felt that at your shows, and I noticed that in the Rock Garden clips, and that's why I knew I was like, oh yeah, this guy's on the same wave, totally, But I guess my point with that is, yes, please, whatever gets people out to shows. If it's earlier, like, I'm that guy, man. I got stuff to do the next day, too, We all work and do our own things also, So it's like, if we can get those done earlier, man, that just helps everybody.
What do you feel the state of rock music is? Because you listen to top 10, top 20, and it was kind of an old person thing to be like, it's not music. But you listen to a lot of the stuff that's popular. It's more keyboards, digital drums, and like almost like a talky voice, sort of. And I mean, do you think rock's going to come back with a vengeance, or do you think
rock is still here, man?
It's always been
anywhere. It's never going to go anywhere. But Nick we're talking about his hooks and stuff, he has really powerful like way pop accessibility, right? So he's like putting this accessibility of pop music.
I love pop music. You talk about it like this, and I'm like, I actually love the change in it. I love EDM music. I love electronic. I love pop. I think that pop music is the only way to change music because it's daring. It's
what people want. Really, it's the voice of the world.
You're feeding people because, I mean, generally, unless, let's just say, you guys know how I feel about people who don't like pizza or puppies, but genuinely, people like pizza or puppies, right? So how do you, I think that sometimes German Shepherds are a popular family dog, and sometimes Labradors are a family dog. You know what I mean? Like, everything's got a wave, but it's all fucking dogs and pizza.
It's stuff, so yeah, absolutely.
I'd say like Mile of Music, they've got kind of reputation for older audiences, for like not Mile of Music shows. I guess with the rock thing was just as far as like bringing younger people to the shows. There's not really a whole lot of all-age venues in Appleton. I mean,
or Oshkosh, yeah.
I would love to see more of that.
I would love to make one someday.
Yeah.
I would love to make it. That's like one of my biggest dreams. Coming home is like making a space of help collect. I think musicians, there's so many musicians in this area. Collectively, like I've been talking about like an artist collective where we like all go in on a venue and like make it all ages, and that space can be used for education, can be used for many different things. Sanctuary for kids to go, because that's also going to get kids playing music again, because I've noticed that's my biggest thing coming home is that where are these younger bands, where are these kids getting into music and stuff. So, and that's why a big reason we got to branch into pop music. How do we make synthesizers and electronic music? Because that is what they're going to use. They're going to use their tools, and technology is a giant tool into the future. There's no running from it. It's like David Bowie said, it's so immersible, and we don't even know, and people have all sorts of opinions, but I think technology is beautiful. I think you have your own channel. I think you have endless possibilities, and it's just like power. Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to the dark side. So you just need to use your tools for good. Use your power for good.
Brandon's not here, but he's I know he's big into video too. Are you guys going to be sort of collaborating on the Traveling Suitcase videos?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's just what happens naturally, when we get together. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the ways that Delmer and I really connected when I first joined that band back in the day. Was we're both movie geeks, and so we just work really well together that way.
And besides Todd, who's in a couple other bands, anybody else in multiple bands? Nick, I know you've got the solo thing.
Jamming with Redshift Headlights, and then I've got Between the Lone stuff, and then I think I still have solo stuff, but I feel like I'm just like...
Are you going to incorporate the solo stuff into the Traveling Suitcase shows?
Domer really wants to.
You should.
Yeah,
They're good
Domer.
songs.
Yeah,
I want to.
Yeah, I was like, Brandon's like, yo, there's some really good songs
They're
that
so
could
good.
totally be transcribed into that stuff and done. But yeah, I mean, I'm down for whatever. I personally like. It's great that we keep taking from a catalog, but I'm like, can we make our own? Because I love this. I love this version, so I want to capture it. You know, like that's what I want. I'm like, oh, I want to capture this version.
So how far into the album are you at this point? I know
We've only just begun.
because it's September release. Now you're kind of under pressure to get it done before.
Which is great because we've recorded all these songs many times. So actually tomorrow we're sitting down and getting the guts to more stuff, and we've kind of got our summer pretty full with shows and mapped out, and I don't want to get us too much further other than maybe me and Nate. So like right now the way that I've got this is where we can unpack to just me and Nate or be a full band. I want this band to be, you know, like I would like to do it full time. So within that, knowing this scene, there's a lot of breweries, there's a lot of wineries, there's so much potential to do music full time here, and that's another reason I wanted to come home, because I was like, yo, I mean, I could bust my ass in the industry and do all this stuff, but in the end, a simpler life and playing music all the time is going to make Nicholas very happy, and that's going to be who I am. And that way why wouldn't I want to live in that? Why wouldn't I dare to do it? And I think that's what I'd like to do. So I want this thing to function, whether it's the two of us or whether it's the five of us, or, you know, so that's like one of the coolest things about that. So our summer's chill, so we can start to put the album together and do that. And I look forward to, you know, pretty much finishing that record and then just starting to record the next one.
Playing some of these older songs again, kind of in a different vein. Mm-hmm. Being up front instead of behind a kit, are you going to be smashing guitars, trying to harness energy up front? How's that going to?
Better not smash a guitar.
I am not smashing a guitar. I just bought myself like a really nice PRS electric, and that is not getting smashed. I love that thing. That is an extension of my body. No, I will not smash any guitars. Just some riffs. I've got some plans. I've got like a little synthesizer on some stuff. I'll play guitar on some stuff. I will jump on drums for some stuff. I will climb on things for some stuff. I am finding that I have a very, you know, obviously I've talked a bunch. Obviously I have a lot of energy. I like to be the center.
You played drums with Richie Ramone.
Yeah, he was the first person to play my snare drum that was built by Hip Custom, and that was like, hell yeah. And that's why Jakey Boy is like, you're not going to ever stop playing drums.
Yeah,
Jake's
that's
very much...
the thing. It's like,
yeah.
I respect him as a drummer. Like, that's how we met. This being able to drum and sing, I've had to do that on projects too, and it drives me crazy. It drives sound guys crazy.
Yeah.
So I get the reason for the split, but, like, it's cool that the Suitcase, you can expect nothing, like, from the Suitcase. You're never going to see the same show twice.
Nope.
I'm not always going to be there. Sometimes Nick's going to jam. Sometimes he's not. Sometimes you're going to have to put earplugs in because I'm going to be there, you know.
I feel the band's got so many creative people around that do awesome work. Todd, Aaron, I mean, he's a photographer too. Che, and does great stuff. Brandon, and Nate, everybody just does so much. I'm excited to see what is going to come out on this album in September.
I think we're all just, honestly, dude, like, I'm excited because we're all just a bunch of creative people hanging out together, and I really feel like I've stumbled upon, like, finally, like, this collective and this honestly, like, kind of commune of people that, like, we can collectively grow with each other and create our own pirate ship.
We're going to do another commercial break, and then you guys are going to play a couple songs live. We're going to try this, right? All right, well, are you guys nervous to play down here?
No, I don't know. I'm stoked.
Just regular level.
Just regular.
All the way.
Well, we'll be right back with some live Traveling Suitcase. You're watching Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio.
Well, his heart stopped beating and no words came out when we figure out life's meaning, nothing new to talk about. Should we look so empty without a seal of approval? Maybe you could dance better if your feet moved a little slower. So much longer when I was young. I didn't know back then where evil came from. calls from everyone, not just anyone. Something's wrong, I said it over and over when you work so hard. Just for one little moment, got your equal. That goes on in my God, I'm trying to keep in every picture. Just like it's how we sing. Oh, 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 over when you work so hard. Just for one little moment, got your trying to sleep in the picture. Just like a child, we sing. Oh, 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 some good Kanye, let's not lie. Sweet. Little Mrs. Knife. Knife. The song's called Mrs. Knife. When you're young, who wants to be saved? I had the pills, so I dug a grave. 'Cause I wasn't born brave, but I learned how to make my name. Take this level
That was the Traveling Suitcase. You've been listening to Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. Thank you. Have a good weekend, everybody.